Welcome, grade 12s, yes, to your favorite program, Accounting with Ashraf Patel. What are we looking at today? Our emphasis today will be on reconciliations. Now, when it comes to reconciliations, what are you expected to know? What is examinable? Let's go through this. Number one, bank reconciliations. Number two, a debtor's reconciliation. Number three, a creditor's reconciliation. Now remember, when we're talking about debtor's reconciliation or a creditor's reconciliation, we are referring to where we will reconcile our debtor's control account with our debtor's list, or our creditor's reconciliation, our creditor's control account with the creditor's list. However, grade 12s, be very careful of another creditor's reconciliation. What am I referring to? I am referring to where we reconcile our balance as per our creditor's ledger in terms of the creditor's statement that we are receiving from our creditor. So keep that at the back of your mind. But right now, what we're going to concentrate on is the bank reconciliation statement. Now, when doing a bank reconciliation statement, the question that you need to ask yourself, and like Ashraf always says, in accounting, we allow you to be mad. In what way? Talk to yourself. Ask yourself certain pertinent questions as to how do I deal with this, and in that way you will find that you will then come to your answers. All right, so now, a bank reconciliation statement means that we are reconciling our bank account in our books with the bank statement that is supplied to us by the bank. Now, what we need to know is what is the relationship between us and our bank. The relationship between us and our bank is that of a debtor and a creditor. Make sense? Think about this here. If your bank account has a debit balance, it means that you have a favorable bank balance, and it also means that the bank is owing us money. Keep this in mind, because when I start with the actual question, you will see how this ties in with what you are expected to know for the exams. So very generically, this is what we mean when we say that our relationship between us and our bank is that of debtor and creditor. Okay, so without much further ado, let's get into the question. And as we get into the question, we will see what is required. Now, here's my question. My question is on bank reconciliation and the creditor's reconciliation. Okay, guys, so now we're looking at a particular question. What is the question? It is adapted from your November 2011, and it is question 2. So you can see specifically which question we are dealing with. What are we provided with? What's the information? Because remember, what does Ashraf always say? I'm sure you remember this. RTFQ. What does that stand for? Read the full question. We're not angry, so we won't use an expletive here. We will rather say, read the full question. Okay, what's the information? The information is appearing on the 30th of September. Watch what I'm doing. I'm underlining pertinent information. And this is what you can do in an exam as well. So you know precisely that this is the date that I'm working around. What is this? These are my balances prior to doing the bank recon. It means before I'm doing the bank recon, these are my balances that are appearing in my books. Got that? Okay. What are they? What are we given? Number one, the balance of the bank account in the ledger is 60,000 Rand favorable. Remember what I said earlier on? A favorable bank balance, according to us, is a debit balance in our records. So by that means then that if we're receiving a bank statement, assuming there are no differences, then that balance as per bank statement should now be a credit balance of 60,000 Rand. Got that? See the relationship between us and our bank? Brilliant. Then we have the balance as per bank statement, which is 17,600. Let me just remove that so you can clearly see what I'm talking about. There's your 17,600, which is also a favorable bank balance as per the bank statement. Now, clearly you can see that a reconciliation is necessary. Why? Because my bank balance is saying, according to my records, is saying 60,000, and according to the balance as per my bank statement, it is saying 17,600. So clearly you can see that a reconciliation is necessary. There's a difference of 42,400 between the two balances. Clear, guys? Okay. Now, what are the differences? Here are my differences that are given to me. The individual differences noticed between the books of Ace Traders and the bank statement. In other words, we are Ace Traders, and these are the differences that we now need to take into consideration in order to do what? In order to answer the questions that have been posed on this section. Right, so there's my differences. We're not going to deal with the differences now. We're going to look at the question and say, okay, this is what is expected of us, and this is how we're going to answer the question. Right, okay, so question 1. You are provided with information relating to Ace Traders, we know that, for September. And the question starts off by saying required 1.1. Indicate whether the following statements are true or false. Yes, this is an accounting paper. Notice the trend where you will get these types of questions in your accounting exams. Like I alluded to earlier on, this was taken from November 2011, last year's paper. So definitely this appeared in a past paper, giving you an indication of what you can expect in the exams. What's the question? An internal auditor will want to inspect the bank reconciliation statement at the end of each month. What do you think? Definitely, your answer here is true. Okay? But I'm not going to leave you at the answer. I'm going to explain this to you. Why? Remember, in grade 12, you are dealing with information where sometimes it's the internal auditor, and at times you get information dealing with the external auditor. Now, who's the internal auditor? Now, this ties in with your work on companies, and that's why we say you can't learn accounting in boxes. There's no compartments. You may get questions spreading across the line, and therefore you are expected to know this. Now remember, your internal auditor is appointed by management, by the directors. To do what? To check on the internal control of the business. Definitely, when dealing with bank reconciliation, it falls within the ambit of internal control. So will the auditor inspect the bank recon every month? Yes, he will. So the statement is true. So we're not only dealing with bank recon here, but I've also made you aware of the role function of the internal auditor. Okay? So therefore, what does the external auditor do? The external auditor, grade 12's, very important information, is appointed by shareholders. To do what? To express an opinion. On what? On the financial statements of a company. So clearly now you can see that there's a distinct difference between the role function of an internal auditor and an external auditor. Clear, guys? Okay, so now, like I said earlier on, External auditor has nothing to do with this particular question, but I'm bringing it, linking it, so that you are made aware that if this is the internal auditor, what does the external auditor do? Okay, let's go on to the next question. A debit balance on the bank statement reflects an unfavorable balance. Aha! I spoke about this earlier on, didn't I? Watch this question very carefully. A debit balance. Where, guys? On the bank statement. In other words, the bank is sending you a statement and it has a debit balance on it. It reflects an unfavorable balance, true or false? Come on, I'm sure you're shouting out the answer as you are watching me. The answer is true. Again, let's go for an explanation on this here. Understand what we are saying. Watch this here. Here's my bank account. If I have, in my bank account, if I have a favorable balance of 1,000 rand, in the books of the bank, they have an account for Ace Traders. And let's assuming everything is correct, their balance will be a credit balance of 1,000 rand. Do you get the point? Watch. My account is showing a debit balance of 1,000 rand. From the bank's perspective, they are saying we are owing Ace Traders 1,000 rand. Clear. But now the situation is, they are saying Ace Traders has a debit balance of 2,000 rand. What does this mean? It means, according to the bank, they are reflecting an unfavorable balance, which is a debit balance. Can you see it? What is the bank saying? The bank is saying that Ace Traders owes us 2,000 rand. So a debit balance is definitely an unfavorable balance. Okay, now, when you receive your bank statement, at the end of the month, here's your bank statement, you receive it, what balance would you like to see on it? Remember, it's the bank statement. So what balance would you like to see? Definitely a credit balance. Why? You want to see that you have money in your bank account. Got that? Okay, let's move on. Next question. Service fees and interest on overdraft will be recorded as bank charges in the cash payments journal. What do you think? Come on. The answer to this is false. You will want to know, why is it false? Come on. Why is it false? Let's look at the statement. Service fees are all charges that are levied by the bank. Okay? So yes, service fees is definitely a bank charge. No problem with that. But the statement says service fees and interest on overdraft will be recorded as bank charges in the cash payments journal. Yes, they'll definitely be recorded in the cash payments journal. But the difference is that your interest on overdraft, listen carefully, your interest on overdraft is not a bank charge per se. Your interest on overdraft is a financing expense. And therefore, when you are doing your income statement, now again, I'm taking you somewhere else now. Because you may be thinking, come on, what's Ashraf doing? We're talking bank recon, he's talking income statement. Yes, guys. The income statement, in my income statement, at the bottom I have interest expense. Am I making sense? There you need to show what was your financing charges for the year. So if I include my interest on overdraft as part of service fees, then definitely that will not be possible. So remember, all charges levied by the bank would fall under the ambit of bank charges, with one exception. And what is that exception? Your interest on overdraft, which will always be recorded separately because it's not an operating expense, it's a financing expense. Got that? Brilliant. Let's move on. I think we have one more here in this part of the question. A post-dated check issued by Ace Traders. Remember, we are Ace Traders. What have we done? We've issued a post-dated check. There's it, in September, the month that we are working with. This check is dated February 2012. Will only be entered in the cash payments journal of Ace Traders in February 2012. What do you think? The statement here is false. Why is it false? A post-dated check that we issue will always be entered in the month that the check has been issued. Let me repeat that. This post-dated check, we are writing it out. It's dated for February 2012, but will be entered in the cash payments journal of September. That's right. The moment you write out a check, it will be entered in your cash payments journal for that particular month. Yes, it's dated for February, meaning it's a post-dated check. Why do we do this? Once again, internal control. You need to have your checks in numerical order. Check number 1, check number 2, check number 3, and so forth. So when you are checking, you can see that no fraud is taking place, no check has been stolen, or whatever the reason may be. So therefore, the check will be entered in the cash payments journal when? In September, although it is dated for February. Okay, guys? That's the first part of the question. And that's the part of the question that you need to total, get full marks in it. Okay, let's move on. The next part of the question. Again, we've just broken up the questions for you so that it's easy for you to understand. But remember, it's all part of one question. 1.2. Calculate the correct bank balance of Ace Traders on the 30th of September 2011. Using figures that should be entered in the cash journals. The question says specifically, show all workings. Now, just on this point here, what is very, very important is that whenever you are doing any calculation, it is critical that you show your calculations. Why? Because your final answer may be incorrect, but you will get part marks for items that are appearing. Okay, so let's get into this question and see what is it that is expected of us. We are expected to start off with the balance prior to the recon, which was 60,000. Remember, that is given to you. Okay, now let's look at the information that we have here. Check number 657, dated the 2nd of March, still not reflected in the bank statement. Okay? That means this check is dated the 2nd of March. Watch. March, April, May, June, July, August, September. 6 months. What does it tell you? It tells you that definitely this check has not been presented after appearing for 6 consecutive months, meaning that this particular check is now stale. Remember that this is now a stale check. In other words, we now have to cancel this check in my cash receipts journal. Okay? Remember, a stale check is a check that we have issued, has not been presented for payment for 6 consecutive months. It is now no longer negotiable. In other words, this check will now have to appear in our calculation when we are working with our bank account. Okay, so let's go to that particular one where we have our bank account. Because here, we're going to put in the 2,000 Rand now. Remember, in your details, you can say it's your stale check. It's your stale check. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, by you entering in your cash receipts journal, surely now you are adding to your bank balance. Why? Because you are entering it in your cash receipts journal. So the 2,000 will be added to your amount. Okay. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to take a short break. But don't you stray or go away. Why? Because when you come back, we're going to complete this aspect of the question. So, see you in a jiffy. Welcome back, guys, after your little break. I'm sure you're refreshed because, remember, I need your mind, your body, and your soul. I want you to concentrate on what we are doing. Okay, quick recap. We're busy calculating the bank balance based on what information was given to us. The first one, there was a stale check that we identified, and therefore we dealt with it like we were supposed to deal with it. That's that one there, done with. Now, number 2 says, a deposit dated the 11th of September not reflected in my bank statement. Okay? Now, once again, we are busy with our bank balance, correct? And therefore, we're going to include this here, and this is your outstanding deposit. There's my outstanding deposit, and the amount of my outstanding deposit was 43,000 Rand. Okay, now, the question that you need to ask yourself is, obviously, if the bank is not showing you this balance, you have recorded it. Understand that? So this 43,000 is actually an amount that is not appearing in the bank statement. It's not reflected there. So obviously, for you to find out your bank balance, you need to take cognizance of this 43,000 and tell yourself, right, it's not there, so obviously you're going to reduce this balance, take it out of here, or remember, you could put a minus sign also to indicate, as long as you are giving an indication of what you are doing with the 43,000. So that's your outstanding deposit. Okay. Next one. A dishonored check originally received from a debtor on the 15th of September 2011. It's reflected in the bank statement but not in the journals. 9,500. Okay, again ask yourself the question. Where is it appearing? This check is appearing in the bank statement. Yes, it's there, but it's not in our journals. Okay? So, this was a check that we received from a debtor, and it's now subsequently being dishonored. Okay, we now have to enter that in terms of our bank balance. Let's go and do that. It's 9,500. Okay, and this is your dishonored check. Now, the question that you need to ask yourself is that this dishonored check actually means that you do not have money in the bank. Why? Because in your books, it was recorded as if you have received the money. The bank dishonored the check. In other words, they said, sorry, but the person has no funds available, or whatever the reason may be for the dishonoring. But in reality, you don't have the 9,500 in your bank account, and therefore it will be removed. Okay, right, let's go back. Check number 931, dated the 18th of September, not reflected in the bank statement. Okay? Now, obviously, this check of 4,800 is a check that you have written, dated for the current month, okay? But it's not reflected in your bank statement. The question that you have to ask yourself, will this check in any way impact on your bank account? And the answer is no. This check, because it's a current dated check that you have issued that has not been presented for payment. So yes, according to you, you have paid the money. So therefore, that 4,800 will not impact on the calculation that we are currently doing, which is the bank balance. Okay. But take note of it, because we may need it somewhere else, depending on where we have to answer this part of the question. Check number 936, dated the 30th of October, not reflected in the bank statement. Now watch, again, this is a check dated the 30th of October. Again, guys, what type of check is this? This is a post-dated check that we have issued. Remember, if we have issued the check, it's entered in our journals. So our journals are correct. But this person cannot present it for payment. Why? Because it's post-dated to the 30th of October. Once again, will not impact on my bank balance, but I will keep it aside because I will have to use it. Right. Next one. A deposit dated the 28th of September, not reflected in the bank statement, 5,700 Rand. Okay? I've made the deposit. My journals are in order. Remember, this deposit here is done at the end of the month. In other words, most likely a timing difference. What do we mean by timing differences? It means that by the time we have made the deposit, the bank has not reflected it because the statements could have come out earlier. But notice, it's slightly different to this deposit here, dated the 11th, which was early in the month. Okay, so keep that at the back of your minds, right? As you will see later on how we deal with this particular aspect. Okay, so this one here, the 5,700 is an outstanding deposit, like this was an outstanding deposit, but we dealt with it differently. Okay, finally, the bank charges in the bank statement, but not in the journals, 1,200. Is this, where is the information appearing? It is in my bank statement. Yes, it's there. It's not in my journals. Therefore, I need now to enter it. And how will I enter it? Watch here. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to say bank charges right? And my bank charges amount was it 1,200? Let's just confirm. 1,200 is correct. There's my 1,200. And again, ask yourself the question, what will the bank charges do? It's entered in my cash payments journal, so therefore will definitely reduce my balance. Okay? My bank balance. There, what I've done, I've entered all the amounts that needed to be entered in order to calculate my correct bank balance. Okay? Just a bit of information on these two here, so that you have clarity on these two. Remember this 43,000. We've showed it as a deposit that was made on the 11th of September, and the reason we are bringing it into consideration is because we are saying that this deposit should have been reflected, but it's not there. So certainly it's not a timing difference. And therefore, this deposit, by the rule of prudence, do you know what prudence? You remember your prudence concept? You accept any losses, but do not anticipate any future gains. And as a result of that, what we have now done is we have said, fine, we're going to assume that there's a problem with that 43,000, and that is why we are actually reversing the 43,000. That's the reason you see it entered there. Okay, guys, what we're going to do now, we're going to take out our calculators, and let's do the calculation. Remember, we started off with the 60,000, so there's my 60,000, right? What did I do? I added the 2,000 rand, there's the figure, minus 43,000, minus 9,500, minus 1,200, and my answer is 8,300. Okay, 8,300. There's the answer. And what have we now done? We've calculated the correct balance on the 30th of September to be 8,300. Okay, now clearly you can see. Let's summarize what we have done in this calculation of the bank account. Number one, there was a stale check, which we had to add back. It was an entry which we made in our cash receipts journal. There's a 2,000 rand. The outstanding deposit, remember, very, very, very important. This was the one on the 11th of September. So obviously, this one here alludes to something not too kosher. And what we have done, we've said, fine, it's not appearing. Let's reverse it. What was the rule? The rule of prudence. Okay? And therefore, that one there, we dealt with, where we say, okay, fine, cancel that deposit. We'll just now see what we're going to do with it. Then there was a dishonored check. Remember, you entered a dishonored check in your cash payments journal. Therefore, a payment reducing your balance. And then finally, your bank charge, which amounted to 1,200. You took all of that into consideration, and there you got your final answer, 8,300. Okay. Next part of the question. What are we now expected to do? Required? Let's look at what we are. Use the information below to do what? Prepare the bank reconciliation statement of Ace Traders on the 30th of September. Now we're preparing the bank reconciliation statement. Okay. What do we start off with? Remember, in the first part of the question, you were given information. The balance as per your bank statement was 17,600, a favorable bank balance. So therefore, we will start off by saying, if you are doing a bank reconciliation statement, remember, we normally use the debit and the credit columns. So 17,600, that doesn't look too good. Let's get it clear for you. 17,600. And once again, if that's my debit column, there's my credit column. Remember, it said a favorable bank balance, meaning a credit balance, and therefore this will be my balance as per bank statement. Okay. So there I've got that. So now I go back to the information and I ask myself, which items did I not record when I was busy with my bank account? Let's check. Remember I said we'll come back to these? We got here check number 931, dated the 18th of September, a current dated check, not reflected in my bank statement, 4,800. So it's check number 931 for 48. It's check number 931, 4,800. And remember, this is my outstanding check. In other words, this is my check that has not been presented for payment. Got it? Okay, let's go back to the information. So, we've dealt with that one, we've dealt with that one, we've dealt with that one, we've dealt with that one. Here's another check, 10,200, 936, 10,200. Let's deal with it. Check number 936, 10,200. Again, an outstanding check. Why? Because it has been written but not presented for payment. Okay, so that one's been dealt with. I'm left with this one here, an outstanding deposit of 5,700. Therefore, you all know that any outstanding deposits, credit outstanding deposit, 5,700. This is my outstanding deposit. Okay, now, what have we done? We've got our balance as per our bank statement. We've got our two outstanding checks, right? We've got our outstanding deposit. What do we now do? We now bring in the balance as per our bank account. Let's find it. What was the balance as per bank account? Remember, it was 8,300, favorable bank balance. So 8,300 is my balance as per bank account. And now let's add 8,300 plus 10,200 plus 4,800 gives me a figure of 23,300. 23,300. Let's check on this side here. What figures do we have there? We have 17,600 plus 5,700 to give me 23,300. Voila! What has happened? I have managed to reconcile my bank reconciliation statement by proving that the two amounts are the same. Great stuff, isn't it? Brilliant feeling when your bank recon works out. So, you want to know more? Stay tuned. We'll be back with you in a while. Welcome back, grade 12s. Yes, that was the bank reconciliation. You've just come back from your break and we've just balanced the bank reconciliation. A great feeling, isn't it? Brilliant. Okay, now look at this question. It says here, a statement received from a creditor, Cairo Suppliers, on the 28th of February 2011 reflects that Ace Traders, that's us, owes them 11,390. Correct? According to Ace Traders, the amount outstanding is only 7,910. I'm going to take you back to my introduction, where I said, when it comes to a creditor's recon, there are two reconciliations that could be done. The first one, you are reconciling your creditors control account with your creditors list, which is an internal recon. Not true. We are reconciling our books, the control account with the creditors list. The second recon is you are reconciling your account as per your books with the statement received from the supplier. A different type of a recon. Please make sure that you are au fait with both those recons. This one here specifically asks us to reconcile the statement that we are receiving from our creditor. Okay? With what? With our balance as in our books. Okay, so here goes. Use the table below to indicate the differences that were discovered when comparing the account in the creditors ledger with the statement received from Cairo suppliers. Write only the amount in the appropriate column, a plus or a minus sign to indicate an increase or a decrease in the balance. Calculate the correct balance or the total at the end. Okay, so you are focused. This is what is expected of you. Right, let's start with our investigation. What did we found? We found that 1, a check for 3,000 Rand issued by Ace Traders has not yet been recorded in the statement received from Cairo suppliers. Understand the question. Understand where is the problem. Number 1, we've issued a check. We are Ace Traders. But this is not appearing on the statement received from Cairo suppliers. Let's look at what we have to do. There's our balance. The balance, we are saying, we are owing you guys 7,910. They are saying, no, sir. You are owing us 11,390. Obviously, something needs to be reconciled. Just a word on reconciliation. Reconcile means bring together. If you have a difference with a friend, boyfriend or girlfriend, and if you want to sort out your differences, you reconcile. You bring together. That's what we're going to be doing here. Okay, so the 3,000 Rand. Where's the problem? The problem is Cairo suppliers have not shown that amount. So obviously we have paid them. The check is there. It's proof of it. So what are we going to do? Minus 3,000 Rand from their account. Why? According to us, we have paid them. Clear, guys? Sorted. Let's go to the next one. The check in settlement of the January account was not received by Cairo suppliers within 7 days. Okay? Therefore, the discount of 500 Rand recorded by Ace Traders in the creditors ledger must be cancelled. What happened? We've posted or we've sent them a check in settlement of an account, and we've claimed a discount of 500 Rand. What have they done? According to them, it was not done within 7 days. They haven't received the payment, and as a result, they're not accepting the discount of 500 Rand. Okay? At the end of the day, we must comply with our creditor. So what do we say? Fine, let's go to their account. Their books are correct. We have taken a discount. So what do we now say? We say, okay, fine, let's add the discount back to the amount that we are owing them, and we are now owing them an extra 500 Rand. Why? Because we are reversing. We're cancelling the discount. Initially we took the discount, but now we're saying no, they've not accepted. It didn't happen within time. Add back the 500 Rand. So in other words, we're owing them an extra 500 Rand. Okay, next one. returns recorded as 810 Rand in the creditors ledger of Ace Traders were recorded as 900 Rand in the statement received from Cairo suppliers. Ace Traders has miscalculated the cost of the goods returned. Again, you can clearly see the difference. 810 Rand and 900 Rand. What are we now going to do? We're going to tell ourselves, fine, the difference between these two is 90 Rand. And therefore, if we go to our question here, you can clearly see that we made a mistake in our books. We recorded it as 810. It was supposed to be 900. So therefore, we're owing them less, 90 Rand. In our books, we need to correct it. Why? We're now owing them less 90 Rand because of an error. And what was the error? The error was a return of 810, and it was recorded as 900. Okay, next one. An invoice received from Cairo suppliers was correctly recorded as 7,700 by Ace Traders. However, in the statement received from Cairo suppliers, it was incorrectly recorded as 770. Clearly you can see something awry. 1 0 is missing, right? What's the difference? 7,700 minus 770 will give you a figure of 6,930. What must happen to the 6,930? Clearly you can see that you have to add an amount of 6,930. That amount must be added because they only added 770 instead of the 7,700. Okay, last one. An invoice for 3,500 received from Cairo suppliers was incorrectly recorded as a credit note by Ace Traders. We have made the mistake. Be careful of this particular one. Watch it closely. Right, here goes. 3,500. What did we do? We treated it as a credit note. In other words, we reduced the account by 3,500. What we now have to do is tell ourselves, and I'm going to do it in two parts for you to understand. The first part would be add 3,500. What will that do? This will result in a cancellation of the initial 3,500, which was incorrect. But that doesn't solve the problem. Therefore, we have to add another 3,500. So what you could have done, yes, by all means, you could have added plus 7,000, and that would have been correct. I just did it in two parts so you could clearly understand what was happening. Okay, let us now do the final reconciliation. Let's start off here. 11,390 minus 3,000 plus 6,930 is equal to 15,320. 15,320. Let's do the side here. And here we have 7,000, let's cancel it, 7,910 plus 500 minus 90 plus 7,000, 15,320. Voila! We have managed to reconcile our balance that we were owing Ace Traders in terms of what they are outstanding, what we are owing them as well, 15,320. We have reconciled the two balances. We have brought them together. Guys, that's it for today. But what does Ashraf always say? Aim for the moon. Because if you don't get there, definitely you will be a shining star. Until the next time, keep on practicing your accounting and be a shining star. Goodbye.